Are you struggling with your irons? And today we're going to be talking about the three biggest things that I see that people get wrong when you're trying to flush your irons. Guys, welcome back to Get Good at Golf. I am Chris, and today we are talking irons, we're talking flushing. And first of all, we need to think about how do we set up to the golf ball, because how many times I see people inconsistent at setup, but mainly with ball position. So ball position is something that's going to massively affect obviously where this golf ball is going to start, what kind of strike you're going to get, and obviously what kind of scores you're going to shoot. So a lot of times I see people edging that ball position further and further forward. So if you're somebody who's hitting all of your irons, whether it's a pitching wedge or a 6-iron, very high, obviously we know they should be going actually the same height. Yes, you might be thinking, well, no, a pitching wedge goes higher than a 6-iron. It actually doesn't. They should have the same kind of peak trajectory.
30 yards.
30 yards, there we go. Thank you very much, James. So obviously we need to think about where your ball position is, but if you're getting it extremely high with a 6-iron, often I see that your ball position gets here. And if you're somebody who's hitting it thin a lot, and you're also hitting not only shots to the left but to the right, you've got a two-way miss. This is often what happens from here, because the big things that we start to see is that people don't weight shift. So obviously they stay back, and if we stay back, that club is actually going to be working up into the golf ball, which will be great for your driver, but not obviously when we're hitting irons. We're then going to either drive the hands to try and get through that golf ball, we might hit the one to the right. We then, on the opposite spectrum, we hang back and we let our hands go. We add a lot of loft and we hit it left and we hit it extremely high. We don't get the penetrating ball flight we want. So a good thing for you to do for ball position, for me, is set your club to your target to start with, and then from here you're going to build your stance. And this, for me, we want to see, even with a mid-iron, it's going to be in the centre of your stance. We don't want to see it going backwards, we don't see it going forwards. And a good way to do that is, once you're in your setup position, maybe on the driving range or when it's not as wet as it is out here today, just drop that club down from your grip and start to see where that is. So where is that in my stance? That is pretty centered, if anything a little bit back, which is, I don't mind, because that's going to help me get more penetrating ball flight, and then I can start to control that. And even if I've got a one-way miss and we can start to understand that, we can improve your golf. So the second thing after we've got the ball position is exactly what I've just done there, is get my stance. So how many times I see people with a stance that maybe is too wide? That's going to obviously limit how much we can turn. And you might be somebody who gets a really short backswing. If you're somebody who gets a short backswing and your playing partners always say you need to swing it further, that could be because of your stance. The wider we go, the more restricted we are to turning. And if we can't turn, obviously we're not going to get as much speed. We're going to limit our distance. Again, we get the people that sometimes get a little bit narrow. Well, I know I don't want to be too wide, so I'll go quite narrow. And what we see from this kind of golfer is that you might start to move all as one piece. So when we start to see you take the club away, we often see that your hips and chest work together. This club drops very quickly behind from there, and then we might have to come over the top, and it's very hard to transfer your weight. So we talk about shoulder width a lot when setting up there. Obviously that is all dependent to the shot you are playing. If you're in closer, you might go ever so slightly narrower, but again, start getting into this same routine. This drill is going to help you with your ball position, but take an even step with your right foot, and then match that with the left foot when you're talking with your mid-irons. Obviously, once we go to long irons, we're going to make sure that then when we come together, I'm going to make obviously a little bit of a bigger step here with my right foot and a little bit less with the left foot if you're a right-handed golfer. That's going to get my ball position a little bit further forward, but it's still shoulder width apart. So I'm making sure each time that distance is the same. And if you're on the driving range, get something down there. Maybe just set up with two golf balls here in the same position and start to make sure you can get the stance width the same every single time, and start to make sure that you can come in, you get used to it, you set your club, feet are together, step and step, and you're making sure that that's correct each time. So the third and final thing we want to talk about is, yes, we've got your stance the right width, yes, we've got your ball position correct, and then from there, it's like we mentioned with the narrow stance, it's getting your takeaway right. So that first movement here with the club, often we see it either picked up very quickly and then we get out of posture, or we then start to see, if it's narrow, we start to see people swinging it around here. So the first thing we want to do is we can get another golf ball in here, and a nice little drill for you to do is practice that takeaway and bring in a golf ball back. You'll see there that moves just inside on the arc. You'll see that it doesn't work this way, and this is the one we see a lot as we start to see people dragging it way inside. You'll see that If you're on a driving range, you should see that go just a little bit inside of where your intended line is, so on the arc, and we should be able to then improve everything at the setup, because we know setup is massive to you getting the correct strike and also lowering your scores this year. So let's put that all into play now. If I bring this golf ball in, again, we've got 150 yards here. So the first thing I'm going to do is start behind the golf ball, pick my intended target. Let's get the club set first, then we're going to build that stance. This is a mid-iron, this is an 8-iron, so I'm going to go even with those steps. And then for the takeaway, even if you want to have a little bit of a pre-shot routine of taking that club away there, getting that feel, and then you can commit to the shot. You can see there a nice strike, drawing just left of the flag, and we can see that's a great flight from there, a good interaction with the turf guys, and that's just getting that routine. You can practice this on the driving range to help you improve in 2024, and we'll see you tomorrow.